Hey cool cats, Roz and Neko here. Welcome to my kitty corner videos where I give my finer spoiler-filled thoughts on Otome games and other Otome related content. Today I'm going to talk about Radiant Tale. Now I am going to do this a little bit differently. I tried to give an ASMR feeling on my previous kitty corners. Now I want to give this game especially some more lively content. Still trying to keep that chill feeling, so let me know what you kitties think and let's begin. So honestly, I don't really have too many thoughts that I haven't really said already in my full review of Radiant Tale. I honestly had a hard time even coming up with content even for this kitty corner. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the individual routes in particular. I didn't really have grunts or anything with this game. The only thing I did have grunts with was just that it was a little hard to finish the game because I was going through quite a lot personally at the time. Just to dive a little bit into that, I was going through a rough patch of switching jobs, and it's really hard for me to adjust to things like that personally. And even before, there were rough changes before then, so I had to put the game down. Then when I had to pick it back up, it was kind of hard to get into it among some other things. But when I was able to pick it back up, the game made it really easy to get back into because it just throws you into this world. It gives it really easy reminders of exactly what's going on, especially when you start with Velio's route. It just reviews everything. Speaking of routes, I'm going to, of course, start with Pastilia's route. I do love him, but it was so frustrating to get through his route because his was the classic, yes, he's an airhead kind of character and he doesn't really understand the kind of things he's doing. He's defending the heroine, not realizing it's because he's jealous. He doesn't really realize what he's doing, kind of romance. But then when it's kind of obvious what's going on, that he has feelings for her, he denies it because he's like, no, she can do better. She shouldn't be with me because I'm going to pass away anyway. I shouldn't even be alive right now because he's essentially cursed to pass away. He has a disease that's eating at him, and the only reason he's alive is by pure accident. He accidentally merged with a fairy, and that fairy's keeping him alive. And even now, with the prince having a contract with him keeping him alive and everyone helping him out, he's not even supposed to be around. He's just giving himself reasons not to be around, even though she trusts him and believes in him that everything will be okay. It's just this constant turning around. I get it. Really, even as a counselor in training and all of that I'm doing, I get it, but at some point it really just made my counselor side want to come out and be just stop, let's actually sit here and talk about what's going on. I couldn't stand it so much. It made it so frustrating. But it just really pulled out my counselor's side, and it just made it really frustrating. This is one of the routes that made me really roll my eyes. And once you do overcome his route, he does become really cute and affectionate. Then it made it okay, but having to deal with all of that just made it so frustrating. And then moving on to Ion's route, I did love him. I loved the cute quirks that he had. He was a bit harder to though, because it was he really didn't understand what was going on. He did reject the heroine at some points, if I recall correctly, and his route made a lot of sense as to why he was afraid and didn't want to get too close with his friends and things like that. The thing that I loved about his route is just how all his friends, it surprised me, and it just made me love his route, if not the most in regards to friendships. How he was cursed with the ring and all his friends were yeah, we're all gonna get tattoos and curse ourselves with the rings, and it was so beautiful. My gosh, if that isn't true friendship, that everyone cursed themselves with the rings. And not just that, they're no, if they hear that he's in trouble, they're all gonna be no, we're all gonna come to his rescue. Because the thing is with the ring is that whoever has the ring, if anybody that's also cursed, quote unquote, with the ring, if anyone else has that mark, and if they try to control anybody that has that mark with the ring, they can't control more than 2 people at once. So if all his friends, which is 6 people or more, come together and they try to control all these people with the mark, they can't control him. So if all his friends are together and have this mark, they won't be able to do anything. So all his friends are all here to help him out, and this is a permanent thing. They can't undo it. So the fact that they're all doing this is so beautiful, and they They could have kept it where it was just him and the heroine, but they didn't. It was so beautiful. If that isn't true friendship, I don't know what is. They could have just kept it as like a bromance kind of thing, but they didn't. This was one of the things I love about this game, is that they didn't just keep it as like a bromance kind of thing. They kept it as a whole circle of friends, and it was beautiful. That's the thing I love the most about this game and his route, is they kept it as that. They interlocked friendship and romance and just so much of that. That's the thing I loved most about his route. I feel like his lacked a little bit in romance, so this is why I liked Pastelia's a bit more, and honestly it's prettier. And he had a lot of cute moments. Both of them had cute moments, but I like Pastelia's a little bit more. But anyway, the reason I gave Sephora a complete 0 in regards to romance is I didn't like how even at the end of his route he didn't become straightforward at all. It was just teasing all the way through, which Vendetta, I guess. With Vendettas they become at least a little bit more open, but the thing that upset me the most was that essentially how I see it is that he left you on red. Like, he confesses his feelings at the end of Circus, Carnival, whatever, and then you send him, I don't even remember, you send him a letter or you wait for a letter, and he doesn't send a dang thing. He doesn't send a dang thing, but he dares to send his presents after a year. After a year. And then is like, hey, I'm looking for someone to live with me, and basically indirectly says, do you want to live with me? I'm sorry, but can anyone explain to me how this is supposed to be romantic? That is completely unacceptable to me. Absolutely not. No. So that is why I gave him a complete 0. And then as for the last two, Rady and Vilio, it just really didn't pull me in. With Rady's route, it was like a lot of like constant back and forth. They were just okay. Vilio's was interesting perspective of how he basically like gave half his power, and it was interesting that it basically cleansed the heroine, and I thought it was good that it gave perspective of like, oh, now you can see what being able to see fairies and other creatures is like, and it just opened up the rest of the story and whatnot. And particularly how it opened up like the other ending. Vilio's happy ending, it just had too much PDA for me. You would never catch me doing so much PDA ever. No. And then I will make 2 final comments on this game. That being that Clovis, my poor child, he was so adorable when he was 10. But my boy, when he was supposed to have a glow up at 17, why was he so bony? Even after the good ending when he became king, he was still so bony. I mean, it makes sense because it was rushed, and then he's a prince, so he should have been like well nourished and stuff, but I don't know. They showed us the first king and he was he was fine. And then the only other thing was that I was happy to see that in the game that they made one where there was no bad or like really depressing endings. Maybe Vilio and Ion, because Vilio's was gone, and I mean we're supposed to live on without him, and that was really sad. I guess there could be a positive where you're seeing that the next, purifying dragon, is out, and it's not Vilio, but maybe you get to lead him to the next future, maybe hopefully a better one, and try again if you want to make it more positive. And Ion's a little bit where the heroine is kind of stuck in time and Ion's frozen, but he moves when you mention the heroine's name. So I feel like it could have been worse, and it's nice that this game is out and that you can play it, especially if you want to kind of play it as a recovery game, and especially after you play this one, maybe after like Virachi or something. But yeah, those are my final thoughts on Radiant Veil. I do completely love it. It was definitely great for like the story and the lore and everything behind it, and I would highly recommend this as a starter game for sure. It had so much in it. I would highly recommend this one as a starter game for anyone interested in Otome. Thank you so much, my pretty little kitties, for joining me today. Let me know what you think of this new kitty corner with a bit more regular voice, or do you prefer the little ASMR version? And I'll see you cool cats next time. Bye bye.